Hello everyone, my name is Paweł Ziorko and this is podcast of Polish magazine Układ Sił. Today we have a special guest who is Yigal Carmon. Yigal is a founder and president of Memory portal that offers translation and media analysis from the Middle East. He previously served as a counterterrorism advisor to Israeli Prime Ministers Yitzhak Shamir and Yitzhak Rabin. Good afternoon, Yigal.
Good afternoon.
First of all, let me ask you about your comment on the statement of Israeli Minister of National Defense, who said today that Hezbollah has decided to join the fight and that they will pay a high price for it.
Yes, well, what happened is that they shot 11 Israeli posts along the border, and they made of it a big story, and they were telling all the Arab world, here we are participating in the war. They are making that statement. But the truth of the matter is that they are limiting their involvement to the border area. And they are not doing what they can do, namely use 160,000 missiles that they have. If they had used that, that would be a real participation. And I want, with your permission, to say something about that. We don't have any protection from 160,000 missiles. No protection. So what can we do? We told the Hezbollah and others, Lebanon, America, that if that happens, we will bring Lebanon to the Stone Age. What does it mean? How do you bring a state to a Stone Age? We will bomb electricity, sewage, and water in Lebanon. Now imagine a city like Beirut, 2 million people without sewage. This is the Stone Age. The catastrophe that will happen there is unspeakable. And this is our power of deterrence. And it seems that it works, namely that they are still limiting themselves to the border to show off. And they say, here we are. But Hamas expects them to use their missiles, not to attack a tank here, a tank there, and all that. They are not participating with their full capacity because for now they are deterred. They also have the lessons of 2006 when there was a war with Israel and the Iranians left them alone, did not enter to help them. And they know that now also the Iranians will leave them alone. So they have all the reasons to make these show-offs along the border. But I want to warn that still, if the old criminal in Tehran will decide that this is a matter of life and death for him, he may order them to go with their missiles. At that point, it will be real participation. I don't want to leave the impression that that's it. It may develop if the criminal in Tehran orders them to do that.
I hope there will be no escalation from this direction. I have a question about another piece of news from today, that humanitarian aid is going through the border with Egypt. From what I remember, you called for it.
Yes, there is our tragically necessary bombing of Hamas created a huge human problem. The refugees are going to south of Gaza. We told them to go because we have to keep bombing. So in south of Gaza, a big refugee camp has been created. Like in Syria years ago, like in Turkey, like in Jordan, they are now in a big refugee camp. And we have to participate, like other countries, in helping the population. This is our duty, and we have to do that. And they chose this life. You know, they had a flourishing city. Despite all the lies and fabrications that they are under siege and all that, they were not under siege. Their border to Egypt was open. Tens of thousands of workers went to Israel. It's all a lie. But now everybody sees the buildings of Gaza. Is that everybody sees what 3 university, water park, malls and everything. They have a flourishing city. They chose for themselves the life of refugees for the next decades, and that's what they will have. And we have to help those refugees like other countries.
Let's go back to 2018. We were talking in Jerusalem when Hamas rockets were falling on Israel. You said then that the Netanyahu and Qatar were to blame. It's today true? Why has nothing been done all these years?
This goes to the question, who is to blame? Why did it all happen? And I want to say, to our tragedy, this was the policy. The blood is on the hands of two elements, three. One, of course, Hamas, that goes without saying. But who was behind it? A policy of over 10 years of collaboration of our prime minister and Qatar to push the Al Thani family, the rulers of Qatar, to push $1.5 billion to Gaza, which went to Hamas, to build their huge military capabilities, huge arsenal of missiles, 30,000 strong force of killers, everything that they have, including an under Gaza city with tens of kilometers of tunnels connecting everyone to everyone, with all the preparations for a war. All this costs money, and this was Qatari money. And the Qatari money went with the full and absolute support of our prime minister. It was his policy that impacted others. He let himself to be deceived that this is, by this way, he is buying them. He never bought anything. There were clashes along the way, and he sold our lives. And this is, the blood is on his hands and on the hands of the Qataris. The Qataris should pay the price, and they will. They are a criminal family that supports terrorism not only against Israel, not only Hamas. They supported the Taliban until they brought them to power in Afghanistan. They supported ISIS. They supported Al-Qaeda. The mastermind of 9/11 was given hiding in Qatar, in Doha, in the municipality. And when the FBI came to arrest him, and they told only the emir, he disappeared within hours. Who tells this story? Richard Clarke, who was the advisor on intelligence to Clinton and to Bush. This is Qatar, a sponsor of terrorism all over the world. And Hamas, of course, that's their maybe the one that they identify most. I don't know. They are a criminal family that is bribing all of Europe, and this is known. There is all politicians, the FIFA, everything. This is known all over Europe. Their role is known. There are lawsuits against them for support of terrorism all over in Europe and in America. And yet, with their money, they managed to establish themselves as, I don't know, peacemaker. Let me put it in your interview like that. Now they say that they helped to release 2 Americans. If the Americans had treated them like criminals, they would immediately bring out all of them because Hamas depends on them. Instead of treating them like good doers, if they had treated them like criminals and took measures against Qatar, then we would have a different picture. All the hostages would be released immediately, because this is the impact of Qatar on Hamas. They are holding them. They are their people. They are their henchmen. They paid for everything that Qatar does, and they probably hope that in the future, like today in Afghanistan, the whole world boycotts the Taliban. Who sustains this criminal country with the Taliban? Qatar. That's and they take position everywhere in the world. We have to recognize the government of Taliban. We have to help. We have to this. This is Qatar. Taliban is Qatar. Hamas is Qatar. The Al Qaeda is Qatar. Everything is Qatar. Every missile, everything that they shot at us, that Hamas shot at us, is Qatar.
Okay, and what can you do with Qatar? I read that you're closing Al Jazeera.
This goes without saying. They have the Goebbels-like broadcast. Today it's TV, once it was radio. Of course, to shut down. I'm talking about international pressure. The world should know what is the world of Qatar and create an international pressure in many ways. I can think that also there will be, after World War II, there were groups of Jews who went on their own without any government behind them to take revenge on Nazis wherever they found them. I am sure that such a thing will develop here. People that were so much victimized by the Hamas attack, when they find out who was behind it, they will go for personal attacks, and this is inevitable. This criminal family of Al-Thani will pay the price for what it did. And there will be others, though. 9/11, it's only no one knows in America who was behind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, that he was hidden in Qatar, that he was smuggled out when the Americans came to arrest him. No one knows it, but the day will come that everything will become known, and they will take the revenge. And they will take the revenge.
And how is this connected with Iran?
He gave all the military side, training, equipment, planning, execution. This was Iran, the military side. But the logistical side, the money behind it, you need money to develop such a military force. All that was Qatar. Iran was the military inspiration and training and planning and execution, and there is a lot about it. But you need, for all that, you need money. Iran didn't have money to give them. They don't have money for themselves. This was Qatar behind it.
Was the aim of the aggression to prevent the normalization of relations with Saudi Arabia? Arab Strip is boiling. What will be happening next with agreements with Arab countries?
So let's take it from two sides, one the Arab side and one the Israeli side. From the Arab side, the masses showed their real sentiments. Their heart is with Hamas. What is there in Hamas? It's to annihilate Israel and to annihilate Jews. We are going to publish several pieces about the ideology of Hamas, which was behind the attack. And this is necessary to know. To annihilate Israel, to annihilate Jews, this is shared by both the Hamas and Iran. So they succeeded in stopping the move. Now, with all the masses demonstrating, the dictatorial regimes that made peace with Israel are shaking, because these demonstrations are against them too. So that end, no one will come to make peace with Israel. This is blocked now, and they will have a problem with their own masses. So I don't think that any of them will move ahead with that. But let's go to the Israeli side. What happened in Israel is a shock, a psychological shock. Israelis thought that, they are already more or less established, that the Arab world agreed to their existence, and gradually here and there, UAE, Morocco, Abraham Accords, Saudi Arabia, things will develop. What you saw, what Hamas did is one thing, but the support all over the Arab world and in the West showed the true feeling. Their heart is with what Hamas did. and they did not accept Israel ever. What happened was some dictatorial regimes did peace, but nothing beyond it. And so now what was once in elections a winning card, peace with the Arab world, today it's a liability. No one wants to hear anymore about Arabs, about peace with Arabs, it's clear now where we stand. So not only was it blocked there, but also Israelis will never take any risk, will never take any such nonsense. It's clear what they want to do to us, and we have to close ourselves, and we can flourish without that. We don't need the Arab world to flourish. I want to elaborate on that in another area. The ideology of Hamas, which became supported by the whole Arab world, including the masses in the countries that made peace with us, that were the regimes were isolated totally. That ideology is an annihilation ideology, like the Nazis, no different. And we are going to publish their charter and these were things that in the Israeli progressive community and in the world, to say that they want to kill us was racist. To say that they want to finish us off was not nice, not something that a liberal intellectual would say. This is bad. You have to adapt it. They want peace, they want this, they want that. This is over. This is tragically over. Now everybody sees what they want. And the ideology, who knows about the ideology? No one. We will publish everything. Israel is trying to do something about war crimes, about what they did on October 7, but I would say it's stupid. Without the ideology behind it, it's very stupid, because Israel is also bombing now Hamas, but population is damaged and without any other possibility. So the only difference is the ideology behind. We do it to protect ourselves. They did it to annihilate us. It is like to talk about the war crimes of the Nazis without the ideology of the Nazis. So what does it mean? There are crazy people who commit atrocities. No, this is an organized ideology, declared, well-built, well ingrained in the psyche of people, that the Jews have to be killed, the Jews as such, all over, not only in Palestine, and those in Palestine all the more so. This is like, the Allies in World War II bombed cities in Germany, all cities, carpet bombings. Were they like the Nazis? No, because they did it to protect the world, while the Nazis did it to take over the world. This difference of by what are you motivated and why do you do that? This is the crux of the matter. And to talk about the atrocities, we have a project of documenting all the atrocities. But today I realize that it's not meaningful if you don't put the ideology behind it, because then it's just some crazies who use violence in a blind way. And there are such crazies in the world, and what can we do? So we judge them and all that. No, this is an organization with an ideology that is supported by all the Arabs, the annihilation of Israel, and that the movements of peace were just a floating illusion, nothing beyond that.
Okay, there will be no relations with Arab countries, but what about Arabs in Israel?
The Arabs in Israel, who are since 48 with us, you can see from their behaviors. They did not enter into this cycle of anti-Israel. They did not rise, no demonstrations, some politicians that get money from Hamas, they made some noise only on speaking, no violence, no nothing. These people understand what is the difference, and they want to be with Israel with more rights, with more involvement, with more participation, but with Israel. This is a great sign. To live several generations, all the Knesset members, Arabs, they were educated in Israeli education in the university. They know the truth, and they want and deserve more rights and more, but they have proven themselves in this war to be civilized and not savages that go for the annihilation. I was talking about the territories, about the Palestinian and the occupied territories. There were talks about the Palestinian state. This is gone. Finito. No more. No one will take that risk ever to put his security in it. It will be like Prime Minister Rabin said in the Knesset 2 years after signing the Oslo Agreement. And he saw that the PLO is not abiding by anything that they signed. To the contrary, they did the opposite. They did not keep the peace. They supported the violence of the PLO. So at that 2 weeks before Rabin was assassinated, he made a statement in the Knesset, in our parliament, that the future of the territories is an autonomous entity, not a state, with the security in the hands of Israel. This is the future. No Israeli will go beyond it. No majority, of course, there might be some Israeli, but I doubt even that. This story of a Palestinian state is over. As far as Israelis are concerned, there will be no such thing because it's a mortal threat to Israel. Imagine what happened in Gaza happening east of Tel Aviv, going to Tel Aviv. It's 10 minutes, 20 minutes drive. Who will go for that? No one in his right mind will. This story is over. I quote in my article a very renowned Moroccan European intellectual who is the idol of the idol of the left in the West, who said the Palestinian cause died on October 7. It was murdered by a bunch of Islamists, murderous Islamists, and so on. He explains what happened. Indeed, the Palestinian cause as a political cause is dead, finished. It was murdered. No Israeli will go for a state where they have the security. This is suicidal. Who will do such a suicidal thing? Who can trust them? And when you see the support that they get all over the Arab world, and the regimes that did something shaking, because it's against them. So we are going to do that. Indeed, the Jews are suicidal, as tragic they can be seen in history. But I think that this was too much, all too much for the Israelis.
Okay, but we see messages from China or Russia that only solution is two-state solution.
About Russia, we better not talk. These murderers, I mean, whatever they say is meaningless. And they want it to keep happening so they can continue in Ukraine. And who knows, they may think also about Poland, you know. So Russia is meaningless. Whatever they say is meaningless. And whatever China says is meaningless. What business they have here? You know, there were Chinese workers around Gaza. They are hostages. Some were murdered. So what Palestinians? I mean, this is political nonsense that leaders are parroting. blah, 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 Palestinian state. This has nothing to do with reality. The reality is murderous ideology, murderous organizations with the full support of the whole Arab and Muslim world. This is the reality. And Israel, that was dragged to this kind of illusion, woke up with blood and tears.
Okay, last question. How do you see the reaction of the rest of the world, especially USA and Europe?
Well, I must say that the position of President Biden is no less than admirable. And lo and behold, all the leaders of Europe all of them came to show solidarity. And they don't say a word about the need to finish off with Hamas. What they say, and I can understand it, to have minimal human tragedies. And this is understandable. But they don't say a word not to attack Hamas and finish. They understood. And you know what they understood? They understood from those demonstrations that they have the same people in their own countries, the same Hamas supporter, and that their own fate is like ours in time. And they are organized, and they are organized organizations. So these leaders understand the truth and understand, and they came to express solidarity and even to help us with weapons, like the British and the French. So it's a moral issue, but also very practical. They know that all those demonstrators are against them, the regimes of the Europeans. I don't know if in Poland there were demonstrations, but it is maybe there are not so many Arabs there at all. But to the extent that they would be being against Israel is totally being against the West, against the civilization of the West. The Iranians who are behind Hamas, also militarily, say they are against Western civilization. They want to replace it with their civilization. It's all out. It's all there. It's just that the West doesn't know it. They will know it very soon, gradually.
Yigal, thank you for your insights and for joining us today. It was really interesting conversation. And I also want to thank the listeners of the Układ Sił podcast for being with us. See you next time.